welcome back to my channel. I feel like I could open every single one of these Witch Wednesday videos with, today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite witches, but like, it's true. If you haven't seen the 1996 classic, The Craft, what are you doing? What are you doing? This movie came out when I was 2 years old, and yet somehow it's still significant to me in my life. I have not seen the sequel. I probably will not be seeing the sequel at any point because I've heard it's terrible and I just don't want to deal with it when the original movie is so perfect. So today, I'm going to be doing my makeup inspired by our girl Nancy Downs, who's played by the phenomenal Fairuza Balk, but I look nothing like her. Like, I could not look less like her. She's got this tiny little cute nose. She's got this big smile with teeth that meet up and are perfect. And she's got these light blue eyes. Like, all of her features are kind of the opposite of mine. The only thing we have in common is our paleness. So this is more makeup like the way Nancy wears her makeup in the movie. You know what I mean? So take from that what you will. That's kind of always what I do anyway. I'm not doing like realistic transformations, but like in this one particularly, I will not look like Nancy in the end, especially because like I couldn't even really dress like her because I just don't have clothes like how she wears. She goes to a Catholic school. Like, what am I supposed to wear? I can't wear chokers because I don't have a neck. Like, there's only so much I can do over here, guys. So, if you haven't seen The Craft, it follows Sarah is the main character's name. And essentially she moves, similar to the Love Witch last week, she moves from one area of California to another. And she goes to this Catholic school, which is, like, weird. And she makes friends with these three girls who happen to be witches. And they're looking for their fourth. They're looking for a member to complete their coven. And that is what Sarah ends up being. Now, the other girls in the group are Nancy, who is the focus of this video today, but then also Bonnie, who is played by Neve Campbell, 1996, big year for Neve Campbell. Scream also came out that year. And Rachel True's character's name is Rochelle. Rochelle, side note, nothing about Nancy here. There are lots of things in this movie that I think can be sort of interpreted different ways, but like, Rochelle's character, the issue that she's having in the movie is actual genuine racism. Like, she's on the swim team, and the like blonde popular cheerleader girl is like making fun of her hair and compares it to pubes, and then when, like an adult, Rochelle is like, Laura, like, what's up? Why are you treating me this way? Laura goes, I don't like, and then she says the N-word. So, like, later on in the movie, all the girls kind of do, like, wishes and stuff to change their life and change what they don't like about it. I don't have an issue with Bonnie's either, because Bonnie's wish is to get rid of all these burn scars she has on her back. Like, that's fine. But, like, Rachel True, Rochelle, that's her character's name. Rochelle's and Sarah do this, like, thing to make Laura, the mean girl's hair fall out, and I just can't help but feel like that's the right move. They try to, like, make her feel bad about it later on in the movie, and she sees Laura, like, crying in the corner, looking like Gollum with, like, 4 strands of hair. I just can't help but feel like that's justice. I mean, first of all, it's just hair. It's not like she gave her some kind of terminal illness, but she was genuinely being racist. Like, I think she deserves to have all her hair fall out. I'm sorry. I don't know who died and made me judge, jury, and executioner, but I just think she deserves it. But anyway, back to Nancy. Nancy, the reason I am a Nancy Downs apologist, okay, is because some important things to know about Nancy. They're in high school, so that makes Nancy, like, what, 16? And this girl has had a hard life. Her family very clearly lives in extreme poverty. They live in this trailer that the roof is leaking so bad that, like, when it's raining, they have all these bowls everywhere to catch the water. Her, I guess, stepfather, maybe just mom's boyfriend, I don't know, but he's a pig, and he's abusive, and he's a jerk. And her mom is an alcoholic who seems to barely pay any attention to her. Like, this is a girl who has a hard upbringing. Does that sort of justify trying to kill Sarah? No, but I can't help but feel bad for her. I just can't. So when they call the corners and they, you know, can invoke their own power and that sort of thing, and she invokes the power of Manon, which in the lore of the movie is like their deity. How do you describe it? How does she describe it? Something like, if God and the devil are fighting. Manon is the stadium they're fighting in. The universe, if that makes sense. So I just can't help but feel like when she gets that power, she feels like the main character. She feels like she has control over something. Like, psychologically, I guess it makes sense that she loves it and she goes a little cuckoo. I just can't help but feel bad for her. She serves as the antagonist for the third act of the movie. I didn't even mention the Skeet Ulrich of it all. Skeet Ulrich or Ulrich? I never know how to pronounce his last name, but our boy, Billy Loomis, is in this movie as well, and he plays a guy that flirts with our girl Sarah on her first day there, and then tells everyone that they had sex, even though they didn't, and then he screws off, and Nancy tries to warn her, but she doesn't listen, and we find out that he did a very similar thing with her, and Nancy, being the awesome feminist that she is really upset about it, and tries to pay him back, and ends up kind of going cuckoo and pushing him out a window. I just feel like that's not totally unjustified. I don't know. I think Nancy is great. But anyway, after she intentionally sort of kills Chris, is the character's name, Skeet Ulrich's character's name, after she sort of unintentionally kills him, then Sarah gets a little weirded out by how much power they all have now, and she sort of tells them that, maybe we should cool off. In a very, mature way, she tells them that she thinks they should calm down, maybe don't do any more spells for a while. And then I can see Nancy taking that as, the ultimate betrayal of being upset, but, why did the other two? Why do Rochelle and Bonnie get upset? Because then after that, they all go to Sarah's house, and they try to convince her dad died, and they try to get her to unalive, and it's this, whole thing where they're trying to get Sarah to die because she tried to leave the circle, but she didn't really say she wanted to leave the circle. She just said she wanted them to cool down with the magic for a bit. I don't understand why Bonnie and Rochelle go batty in that situation, too. I just don't. Maybe they're just, I don't know, followers, and they're just following Nancy. I don't know. Okay, I don't get it. That is, one part of the movie that doesn't make sense to me. Nancy going from 0 to 100 makes sense. The other two, not so much. Especially Bonnie, because she was so nice to Sarah to begin with. She really wanted her to be in their group, and then she just, I don't know, loses it. Sarah tries to tell her that ever since her scars went away, she's acting like a total narcissist, but I don't think that's justifiable. I think when you've been insecure and then your insecurity goes away and she now feels like a hot bitch, she's gonna act like a hot bitch for a little bit, and then she'll eventually get used to it and she'll go back to being an actual nice girl. Just let her have fun. Gosh. So Fairuza's skinny 90s brows aren't that bad, so this is about as good as we're gonna get, I think. Unless I actually did some blocking, which I'm not going to do. When I was watching this movie, Nancy's makeup isn't as intense as some of the promotional material would lead you to believe. It's a lot of just smoky smudginess. And it's not as dark as I originally thought it was. So what we're going to do is we're going to take I just want something that's sort of fluffy and sort of flat. Sure, you'll work. I think you're just, a Bare Minerals brush. We're going to take something that's sort of skin tonedy, like this Obituary shade down here. And we're just gonna fluff it. Because I just want my skin tone, but grayer. And then we're just gonna take something like this Vasanti brush. We're going to buff that out with it first. And then, in the 90s, they weren't very big on buffing out their eyeshadows. They just kind of put them on in shapes and let it happen. So, even if that's not how we do it these days, that's how I'm going to do it. So, I'm going to take this shade on the end here. And we're just going to literally create a big V. I bet you back then it was applied with one of those little tipped applicators. You know what I'm talking about. It's not cotton. What's the word I'm looking for? You know what I mean. They used to come in all the Claire's eyeshadow palettes. Honestly, it's meant to be a little bit messy. And now I'm going to do something I never do because I'm not good at it. But we're going to do my best, okay? We're going to try to do like a smudgy liner. So I have my little Smashbox gel liner here. And we're just going to keep it nice and close to my lash line. And then we're going to take the brush that I've designated. It's just a little angle brush. And we're going to take it in that shade that we also just put in our, like the V shape on the side, and we're going to try to smudge. Have you ever tried to do this before with the smudgy? Because it almost makes me feel like my eyelashes are in the way. So something like that, and then we're going to do the other side before we do the bottom, okay? The reason I'm not talking is because this, in fact, takes all of my concentration. In some of the scenes, her makeup is not winged, but like the V shape that we did with the darker eyeshadow is out more, and it's darker. Especially, that's one of the things I really like about the craft, is that as their magic kind of grows and they get stronger as individuals, but also as a group, their makeup gets a little bit darker and a little more fun, and their costuming gets a little more fun. Like, they kind of start, Neve Campbell's character is wearing, like, her uniform, but she's wearing a sweater over it, and everything's really baggy, and she's supposed to look insecure. Then she starts dressing like a hot bitch once she starts feeling like a hot bitch. But then at the end, when the other three are, like, really strong with their magic, and Sarah's trying to, like, kind of get away from them, she goes back to the way she was to begin with. And they keep their darker, more intense makeup. I have to blend this. I'm sorry, it's bothering me too much. So now we're going to try the smudgy on the bottom, because this is the 90s. They did wear their black liner all the way around. It was weird. I don't want to talk about it. So that, I think, is similar enough to how Nancy does her eye makeup. Again, it looks crazy different on me because we have very different eye shapes. I think the girls from the craft, wouldn't that be like the best group Halloween costume? Like, especially if you looked sort of like them and you could like pull off like each girl has a girl. That would be awesome. I don't have enough friends. But in hindsight, I did actually have, there was a group of 4 of us that hung out all the time when I was in high school. But they would have never been down to do the craft costume because one of them was very Catholic and another one was a Jehovah's Witness. But I did have the right number. I need to just powder my skin a little more. 90s was about matte skin. You weren't allowed to glow. No glowing. And then I'm just going to fill this liner in up here a little better. Okay, and now last but certainly not least, for the lips, I had a hard time trying to figure out what colors I wanted to use, but I settled on a black lip liner and then this Colourpop Lippie stick in Infinite Best. Because Nancy has very dark lips throughout most of the movie. Not all of it, but most of it. Whenever I line my lips in black, I feel like, you know the matchmaker in Mulan where she goes, "And dignity." Reflect before you snack. Act. This shall bring you honor and glory. Something that I think is really cool about Nancy's makeup is that it always looks really worn. Like, even her lips, when they're nice and dark, like, you can see the pink on the inside when she talks. It's not, like, perfectly executed. Which I think is great, because, again, something that's hard to remember in this movie is that they're supposed to be really young. I threw the lid on my ground. Anyway, I know this was a little bit of a quicker one, but Nancy's makeup isn't supposed to be the most perfect thing because she is, again, just a high school girl. That's something that I think is very important to remember when you watch this movie. When Nancy goes a little insane, I almost want to call it a trauma response, but I don't want to use that phrasing because she does try to kill Sarah, sort of by proxy. And I just don't like the fact that they put a glamour on the TV to, like, create a fake newscast where the plane her dad was on crashes. Like, that seems like too far. But at the same time, I am a Nancy Downs apologist. I do love her, and I looked up fairuza balk on the interwebs the other day to see what she's up to. And I thought she'd be like doing like fun indie movies and that sort of thing. She's doing like Cameo, and you can like sign up for like a mailing list where she'll send you an autographed Nancy Downs postcard. So I thought that was kind of cool actually. So if you want one, go check out her website. Anyway, now I'm just blabbering for the sake of blabbering. So thank you so much for watching this week's Witch Wednesday video. This Nancy Downs inspired makeup look. I hope you enjoyed watching me throw together this little goth look and chat about one of the most important witchy movies. I can imagine when this movie came out, there were probably so many girl sleepovers where they tried to do light as a feather, stiff as a board, and they just watched this movie, and I wish I had been a teenager around that time, because that sounds like it would have been so much fun. But alas, I was but a wee infant, and then I grew up, and I didn't have any friends that would watch this kind of things with me. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!